Yes. So how you been?
Good, so good. I'm so excited you're here. Thanks for doing this today. I really appreciate it.
Yes. Sure,
Um,
Kylene.
yeah, I am. Well,
Anytime.
I'm really excited to talk about stress and the impact it has on your health. I mean, I learned from you, right? I learned from the best that that's so critical and it's so
Yeah.
impactful. And so it's something I work with a lot. Um, on with my clients, but I think it's something that people really struggle to embrace as an issue in our society. So I'm really excited to kind of ask you a little bit about that. But first, for people who don't know you, who is Reed? So what really motivated you to get into the health business? Tell us a little bit about what makes you tick and what kind of got
Yeah.
you on this path.
Well, it's interesting. It was a long time ago, but 20 years in the late 90s, I was working in the environmental law field, and environment, and saving the planet. Birds, bees, water, air, trees, and that kind of thing. And I started to turn my attention to what that environment was doing to people, including myself and my son, who was a high school athlete at the time. He was seeing a chiropractor, and I went in there to listen, kind of oversee. And I really liked her style and what she was teaching me about the body and the nervous system and things. And so I left my other job and I went to work for her in the clinic, and to run it and to learn more. And it was amazing. I fell in love with the clinical side. So that's when I started. I went with her to this nutrition certification, but it really didn't work for me very well. And that's when I started running the labs way back then. So,
Mm.
but it was just a personal quest, and because my son and I were both, I ended up quitting my chiropractor and going to see her because her educational program for her patients was amazing, and I just wanted to work in that clinic. And I started to run it and then work on the clinical side. I fell in love with working with people and trying to figure out what was really wrong with them.
Yeah, obviously in the course we talk about that a lot, the underlying cause, and that's something I like to reiterate a lot. Is you don't just look for the treating the symptoms; it's the underlying cause. And I've shared with people that listened to the podcast before about my son, and we recently went through a health struggle with him in the past 6 to 8 months. And what was really frustrating is when we would go to the doctor, they would just give us, "Hey, he's constipated," is basically all that they would say. And I was like, okay, but what's going on? And so I ordered a stool test and we dug a little deeper and we were able to find, what was actually going on. And of course, then we were able to lifestyle approach, treat it for him. And the difference between then and now is just, it's incredible. He's more focused in
That's
school.
great.
He's getting better grades. He's more energetic. He's healthier. He's happier. It's just, yeah. So getting to that why is so critical. So when you went to that chiropractor, were there any specific health conditions in your family, or this was just sort of an awareness that you had, and so you had different practitioners that you worked with? And
Well, at first it was just, sports injuries and aches and pains and things, and, spinal misalignment and that sort of stuff. But the more I listened to her talk about the nervous system and how every cell in your body is connected to the nerves, and, you're kind of releasing this power, the power of the innate. So she taught me about the power of the innate healing ability in every cell, tissue, organ. And I had already studied the environment and environmental law. And so I had this inquiring mind. I love to read and study things. And so I threw myself in at full force. I started learning everything I possibly could about the body, and what makes it tick and what tries to hinder that. But the true belief that I grabbed then and I still have today is that every cell, tissue, and organ knows what its job is. You don't have to train it to do anything. You just have to nurture it and remove things that are interfering with normal life. And we all have this birthright to be healthy and happy. So that's what drives me.
yeah. I love that. I love it when you get down to talking about the cells, because when I talk with people, I'm talking about like how food affects your cells and how it affects your energy. And it's so true. They know what they're supposed to do, but you
Yeah.
you have to give them the building blocks to be able to do that. So when you switched over to working for this chiropractor, eventually you ended up starting your own business with the FDN certification course and everything. So what was the specific need that you saw, the niche that was missing that you thought FDN could fill?
Well, I worked in the office for 10 years. It wasn't a real short thing. I ran thousands of labs on thousands of people. I made my own observations about what worked and what systems were underlying most common conditions. And what lab work we could use to get some leverage or insights. And then what are the natural protocols? Because as I learned again early on in the chiropractic office, it's not coming in for adjustments or therapies it's what you do at home that matters. It's what you go home and do. You come in and we'll educate you and help you out a little bit. And so that natural holistic lifestyle, I really studied that thoroughly. And then the labs and what were the healing opportunities, really studied that. And I was out building my business too. I had the office to fill up with patients, and I had my own part of that, my own practice, if you will. And so I was out lecturing, and I really started to systematize it and have a way of people, coming in, getting the labs done, getting other things checked out, and then going and living the right lifestyle, all the factors: diet, rest, exercise, stress reduction, supplements, and things like that. And they got better. And I just really was overwhelmed with referrals and leads to, we want you to talk over here and we want you to talk over here. And someone just finally said, you should be teaching. And I thought that'd be fun, and yeah, I probably
No
could.
big deal.
could I wanted to start deputizing others. I could only help so many people.
Yeah.
I mean, I had hundreds of clients, but I thought, gosh, and some lady just came up to me at a lecture and said, Sonny, you should be teaching other practitioners how to do this, and then you could spread the love, and with the good work you're doing. It was just like that, and I went, oh yeah, man, you're
That's
supposed to listen to.
well, that was God in the form of one of the people in your audience coming down and sharing you what your life purpose was.
Amen, amen.
That's so interesting. It is interesting. I feel like so often there are these little places in our life or in our careers where someone else like just gives you that little nudge. And if that person hadn't been there, it's like, where would the fork have been in the road? But thank goodness they were there, and they said, hey, maybe what about this? And then you said, okay. And it takes your life in such a different direction. So that's really interesting. I didn't know that. That's really cool.
Well, I have to say that's where the light turned on. I remember that moment. And but then I do my due diligence too. I don't just jump into things all that quick. So I talk to other people, and the people we do business with, the labs and things, also said you're like the busiest guy on the planet. There's no other nutritionist in North America that's doing as much as you are. And so that was the vendors saying you're right in the top 10% of all of our producers, if you will. So I knew I was doing something right, and they encouraged me also to teach. And so, yeah, 10 years ago this summer, we started the FDN course. I say we, it was me going over slides and slides and slides and slides and practicing, and I finally delivered the first class. And that was be 10 years ago this summer. We're having our 10th year celebration and anniversary conference.
Gonna be there. Yep, I'm gonna be there. I'm
Great.
so excited about that. I'm so excited. That's awesome. 10 years. You just gotta be thrilled. Do you know how many people have graduated at this point? Do you have a number?
Close to 3,000 have signed up, and our graduation rate right now is about 72, 73%. So we have hundreds and hundreds of people out there doing the work. In other words, I set out to deputize, and we have deputized. And now you've magnified what we're able to do.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, ready to get down to the nitty gritty?
I am.
All right, let's do it. Okay, can you give me your definition of stress, and then go into how it impacts your health? Specifically, maybe give some specific examples on how it would directly correlate with your gut health and things like
Yeah, sure. Matter of fact, almost 20 years ago, 2001, actually, I read an article that stress was 50% of the reason people went to see a doctor, and that at least half of all chronic health related problems are due to some form of stress. So I started studying that. And I'm a systems guy, so you could get more complicated if you want to, but I've determined for myself and for practicing and for communicating with people that there are three major forms of stress. So when you say that word, most people think of mental, emotional. My house is dirty, or my car. I got to get to work. I'm late. Money, kids, relationships. So mental, emotional stress is a big killer. All kinds of things. But I started looking into the other types, and I worked in a chiropractic office. So physical stress and trauma was also very huge. People have had hundreds of spills. I had myself motorcycle accidents, sports injuries, all kinds of things that just took its toll on my body and my nervous system. That also causes disease, right? Disease, breakdown of systems and things. And then, of course, there's the environment, which I'd studied, practice in that area. So it's kind of us against these various stressors. And so you really could say the stress is anything mental, emotional, physical, chemical, and biochemical stuff that will break you down. It will lead to disease processes and eventually symptoms. So I said, I mentioned the mental, emotional, the physical trauma, things like that, and then the chemical, biochemical, environmental things. And our body produces toxins. They're stressful, and our stress response system doesn't really distinguish between them. It just reacts. Your cortisol goes up, that's going to raise your blood sugar, try to give you more energy. Well, high blood sugar going up and down from is not good for you, and on and on and on. And you mentioned the gut. Cortisol, which is your stress hormone, suppresses secretory IgA, one of the immunoglobulins in your body, one of the defense elements, if you will. It's a huge part of gut, where 75% of your immune system is. So if you're suppressing the good juices down there, whether they be digestive juices or immune system thing, it's not good to have stress. Got to get that under control, right?
I couldn't agree more. Yeah. Yeah, no, it's so true. And it's something that I think I have found direct correlation in my life and with my family. And it's so funny because the past month or so has actually been very stressful on me and my husband, so I go through this certification. I work with my clients. I'm talking to him constantly about these things. And so, of course, when it happens to me in my life, he's my reminder. So I work with all my clients, and then my husband comes to me and says, honey, I think you're really stressed out right now. And I think you need to remember that that's what's affecting you. And so he's even able to sort of point it out to me and say, it may not have been that food you ate. It might have actually just been that you're incredibly stressed out right now and you need to focus on some stress relief. So yeah, I think there's a lot of correlation there too. I've been able to see it with my son as well. So it's not just with the nutrition. It's not just with some of the stuff that we found in his test results, but he will actually when he gets overly stressed out because of school or mental, emotional, whatever, he will have physical symptoms because of that. And so we try to remind him, hey, that's all that's going on right now. You're really stressed out. You need to calm down, and so yeah, it's a real thing. It's absolutely
kids are, you're right, and kids are so wonderful to work with because you can help them a lot. They, first of all, they respond very, very quickly, but you can see, and I've talked to school principals and counselors and people like that, administrators and things, and what's going on with the kids these days. And I'm still, I coached football, youth football for 15 years. I raised 4 kids. So, I know a couple things, and they're being stressed out from first thing in the morning. Even the bus drivers, like they had to talk to the bus drivers because the bus drivers were stressing the kids out, and they were, with their whatever, and they're coming in. Then if they didn't eat breakfast, so that's one kind of stress, the mental, emotional. Got to get to school. I didn't do my homework, whatever. And then you have those physical, biochemical type stressors, like they didn't eat the right breakfast. We had one administrator talk to, said just for the heck of it, she sat in on some disciplinary interactions between the parent teacher conference, and asked each kid, what do you have for breakfast? What percentage do you think said sugary cereal? These little
100%.
troublemaking kids. 100%
Wow.
had crap for breakfast. So they got the mental emotional stress. They got the chemical, biochemical, sugar and excitatory, food colorings and all this thing,
Mm,
preservatives, pesticides, all these things that's going in there. And of course, then trauma, they do fall down and skin their knees and fall out of trees and
sure.
bicycles and stuff. So they need it in each area, just like the rest of us. And it's very
Yeah.
easy to manage in kids.
Yeah, I would say, just again from my personal experience with Keegan, it is amazing how quickly they bounce back, and so they're able to kind of identify it pretty fast. Oh my gosh, I'm feeling so much better. And so with him, we struggled a little bit because about halfway through the protocol, he cheated and he basically found like this bag of saltwater taffies and ate like the whole thing.
Yeah.
And he felt awful after that. And so we were able to, again, okay, we got to correlate this. You feel bad when these things happen. And so we were able to talk through it. And then he was really on board. And so he's been able to actually imprint himself, like really internalize it himself. And I think when he was able to do that, it made the biggest difference. But when he internalized it, it was like, boom. Yeah, his body just responded so quickly. So it's really cool to kind of
Yeah.
see that. Yeah. So in terms of, you have these 3 different kinds of stress. What are maybe your top 3 tips for managing stress?
Well, in each area, I kind of have my therapies, if you will. And the
Sure.
idea of mental, emotional stress, my best weapon, if you will, is attitude, and being grateful and that kind of thing. Because I don't know any other way other than to just be thankful for what I do have and not worry about what I don't have or what I'm going through and so on and that, because every day is a gift. And so, but if you actually set that as your daily prayer, yeah, I think you're in good shape. So you be mindful and you breathe deep, like and chill. And so I have a positive mental attitude, I guess you'd say. So negativity, you really have to discipline yourself to stay away from that. And so then that's mental emotional in a nutshell. Gratitude, best state of mind to keep, and gets you through a lot of stuff. And there are other techniques, but on the physical side, I do like chiropractic and acupuncture because they keep you in alignment. They keep the nerve, like chiropractors can get the nerves flowing really well, and acupuncturists get the energy flowing really well. And that's my basis. Now I also work out and get massage and these different things. Balance is really important. Flexibility is really important. Strength is really important. Posture and stuff. If you notice, I'm actually sitting up straight. But when I do lectures, I play this little game. I go, okay, everybody, sit up straight, and you watch how much movement takes place in the room. It's like the
Yeah.
whole room with all the noise and the din of everyone changing their why? Because they were all in bad posture.
Yeah.
There's one guy who just sitting there like doesn't have to move, or gal, you know what I mean? One person.
Right.
So you have the mental emotional gratitude. You have the physical stressors. I think it begins with self-awareness, posture, good, lot of exercise, and seeing if you need someone on your team like a chiropractor or acupuncturist. It's great. If you get real serious injuries, you're going to need an orthopedist or someone that can do other stuff. um, because I've had really bad injuries. I've had as much as like this platelet-rich plasma injections, prolotherapy. I had placental matrix injected into my low back because I've been very hard. I've abused my body with jujitsu, even in my 60s, doing wrestling 22-year-olds, and stuff. So yeah, you just roll with the punches, right?
Hey, but
So
you
you
can do
got your
that because
mental.
you're so healthy, right? Like you can.
Yeah. Well, I want to, and then on the chemical side, you really need to eat clean and go to bed on time and rest your body and things like that. So I think diet is absolutely huge. But you've also got the opportunity to look at your personal care products, you know, and not use things that have a bunch of chemicals in them. Look at your household cleaning products, you know, and that kind of a thing.
Yeah. Do you have, when you work with people, do you sort of communicate to them that this is a process and that, you know, because just that list right there, I feel like someone could take that and be like, oh my gosh, it's so overwhelming. And that's going to take me so much time. You're talking about my makeup and my hair care and my home products and, you know, all these different things. Do you,
Well, it is a process.
yeah.
Yeah. So, and I think when you keep it simple, well, at least you have the information, you have the steps to take. So then you can break it down into repetition, and you don't work on it all at once. You work on your weakest area at
Yeah.
first. So
Sure.
what's your weakest area in those? Yes, so stress reduction is critical. Now, in our business, you know, you may not be able to help a person a lot with the mental, emotional, or if you're not a chiropractor, acupuncturist, or personal trainer, or massage therapist, you know, you might not be able to. But we can all, as we call it FDN practitioners, health coaches, and that you can run tests on people. They shouldn't be eating foods they're sensitive to. That's a tremendous stressor. Also, you've got parasites, bacteria, funguses, and things like that.
So we were talking about all the extra or the stressors that we can handle as FDNs. So we have the food sensitivities, we have parasites, we have bacteria. I think those actually, and I'll kind of ask you your opinion on this, because when I initially got into FDN, what really prompted me in my own health journey was very hormonally fueled. So I was really interested in hormones, and I had gotten some testing and was extremely depleted. And that's really what I kind of had in the back of my mind and what I knew about and was a little familiar with. And so as I went through the program, my thoughts actually shifted a little bit in terms of underlying causes, because I feel like even with hormones, the gut health is so incredibly critical. And I would say, in my personal experience, and I'm curious what your perspective would be on this, a large percentage of hormonal imbalances would be due to other things that we would actually address through nutrition, through food sensitivities, and through like the stool testing and pathogenic issues that people may be experiencing. Is that sort of something that you've noticed as well?
Absolutely. So hormonal challenges are also due to stress, you know, and it's of one form or another, because your body, again, it doesn't care where the stress is coming from. It looks at mental, emotional stress and physical trauma and, you know, aches and pains, whatever it might be, and also the immune system. You've got toxicity. You've got those bugs that we mentioned that might be causing problems. You got food sensitivities. You end up with this weak gut, and you know, immune system, again, resistance is dropping down, and all that is stressful. The body just reads it as stress, and the cortisol to DHEA balance will go out. Your catabolic hormone, the hormones like cortisol that breaks your body down, tries to keep your blood sugar stable and things like that, or right, keep it elevated, is there. And then your DHEA, which is the master, um, let's say, regulator of cortisol, or at least counteraction to cortisol, goes down. So you end up in this catabolic state. Now, also DHA is the parent of your sex hormones. And so I've never looked at hormone problems as the real problem. They're the result of the problem, which is some form of stress, whether it be known or unknown. And we get really good at looking at those hidden stressors. And so those same hidden stressors could also cause other problems. They're not just affecting cortisol, the DHEA, and the sex hormones. They are affecting your immune system, digestion, detoxification, and so you just get it, what we call metabolic chaos. You know, there's weak links in metabolism. Pretty soon, you're all messed up. You know, and you need a system. Yeah, that's the diagnosis, right? All messed up.
That's what I tell all my
Um,
clients. I say, you are just a wreck, but let's fix you.
yeah, yeah.
No.
Well, there's we joke, but it's true. It's multifactorial. There's a lot going on. There are multiple healing opportunities. That's again why we like lab work. I run 5 labs in every person, and that's the training that I do. So that why? Well, because we don't really know which one is the underlying cause or condition,
Hmm.
and so people are running around there. I call it a cycle of trial and error. They go to a doctor. Doctor says there's nothing wrong with you yet. They might be able to do a little hormone therapy or something, but you're fine. Just take a vacation, or here's some chill pills, or whatever it might be. So they don't accept that. People are like, well, there is something wrong. That can't be crazy. So when they come to us, we run our labs on them. We find healing opportunities. We find that their digestion isn't right. They're not really breaking and absorbing things. Their detoxification, their liver's congested, or whatever it might be. Their immune system is weak, or overreactive. Immune systems can be overreacted too. And then, um, other things, energy production, nervous system, and whatever it might be. So, but which ones was first? Which one actually, and what's the chain of events between that and your symptoms that are occurring? It could be pretty elusive. And that's why our protocols address everything, every cell, tissue, organ, and system, the entire organism. For instance, like going to bed and getting a really good night's sleep. Is that a medical treatment? No. Does it
Right.
treat any one condition specifically? Not really. It really just works on every cell, tissue, and organ, the entire organism, every system. So that's a good thing. That's how we work. It's called non-specific treatment of everything. And it sounds a bit gooey, but it's just works.
Yep. Yeah, no, no. To me, it makes sense. And I think to our clients, it ends up making sense. One of the comments that I frequently get is that they're sleeping better. And, I think that's something that in our society, we often kind of shove to the side, like, oh, I don't need that much sleep, or 4 to 6 hours and I feel okay. And it's one of those things maybe that people don't actually realize until they're getting better sleep and they're sleeping through the night and they're not waking up and they got 8 hours and they have more energy. And then you look back and you think, oh my gosh, I was actually really tired during the day and that wasn't great sleep. And, so I love when one of my clients will say, oh, I'm getting so much better sleep this week, or I have more energy. And that's a great compliment, I think.
Absolutely. And then when you sleep better and you have more energy, you feel like doing more exercise, which is another critical
Right.
component of our program. You can't be healthy if you don't do that.
Yeah, right. Movement is absolutely critical. And we talked about diet a little bit, but nutrient density. So can you talk a little bit about why that's so important, specifically with people that struggle with chronic disease? I know I'm going through an autoimmune certification, coaching certification right now, and just learning about
Great.
how many. I'm kind of a certification junkie. It's like you said at the beginning. I just want to learn it all. I want to absorb it all. I just want to help everyone. I love it. But specifically talking about clients with autoimmune conditions, there are some very specific and very common nutrient deficiencies, and I'm sure that you've probably run into some very common regular ones as well. So can you maybe touch on the importance of nutrition and maybe even some supplementation?
Sure. Well, in our world, diet is often the first place we start. Again, we try to start on the weakest area. If your diet's something you're really weak on, you might need to start there. And of course, there's hardly anything that has as beneficial an effect as the proper diet. So figuring that out could be a question people might ask. But when you talk about nutrients, you need vitamins, you need minerals, you need essential fatty acids, you need antioxidants. There's all kinds of phytonutrients, other things that's supposed to be in food. And so you got to eat the right stuff. You mentioned nutrient dense, but so there's all of that stuff: vitamins, minerals, essential fatty acids, antioxidants, and so on. And we're programmed that way. That's what is required to keep us nourished. You have to nourish all the metabolic processes in your body, every cell, again, build muscle, all the different brain cells, you name it. So they need nourishment. and it's often missing in food because soils are depleted and people don't have the money to buy pure organic. Matter of fact, I think organic food is only a little bit more nutritious. The good thing about organic food is it has less of pesticides, herbicides, and so on. So it isn't just what you eat, it's that you also have to break it down and absorb it. So what's going on in the body matters. And also what's not in it matters. And hydration, of course, I put water in that category. Filtered water is the only way to go. Staying really well hydrated, but you definitely want to coach up function through nourishing all the cells in your body, while you coach down contributors to metabolic chaos. Like get rid of the herbicides, pesticides, and things like that from your food. And then supplements come in really important because there just isn't enough nutrition in food. It's really low quality for the most part. So you could take some extra vitamins, minerals, essential fatty acids, antioxidants, and these kind of things. And you can then go into a therapeutic level of supplementation as
Mhm.
well.
Have you noticed any specific ones that people seem to be majorly deficient in? That's just like a common thread that you've noticed, like, magnesium or B vitamins, things like that.
Well, yeah. um, the basics are always a good place to go, uh, because you need this general support. And there is a hair tissue. We do this hair tissue mineral analysis. It can tell us if you got. We more look for the imbalances there and metals. People have again more contributors to metabolic chaos. But we kind of need to back up and go. Well, what do you mean by good diet? And it is whole food. Try not to eat out of bags or boxes. Try to get fresh food. Try to cook your own food when you can, or have someone cook it for you, um, from fresh ingredients. And get lots of the three major macronutrients. Probably be even more important to think about. We talked about the micronutrients, vitamins, minerals. They're the little things. How about just protein, fat, and carbohydrates? That's your basic, and each one is going to have its own, amino acids and essential fatty acids and vitamins and minerals and all these different things. So I would really sort of start a person off there with eating the right amount of protein and fat and carbohydrates, good clean fats and carbohydrates that aren't going to spike their blood sugar very much. Just try to maintain stability there. Obviously, vegetables are pretty awesome, and the less refined, the better.
Yep.
Eat your vegetables. Like how old is that expression?
I know.
Actually, imagine it's actually good for you. Like that little lady that came up to me and, are you eating your vegetables?
I
Same
think
thing, there's,
almost every diet out there agrees on that one thing. I think is that vegetables. They'll
yeah,
disagree on a
well,
lot of other things, but that's one that I think most people can get behind.
yeah, I'm a meat and veggies guy,
Yep.
and I eat fish, chicken, beef. I like the exotic meat too,
So I think a
buffalo.
lot of people sometimes are curious when we're talking about nutrition. Can you maybe give an example of what your breakfast might look like? Because I think you talked about it like with the kids at school and stuff. I think breakfast is a really big one for people to change their mindset around. What might a typical breakfast look like in Reed's house?
You're looking at, first of all, no breakfast is better than a crappy breakfast. Like it just doesn't make any sense to grab empty calories, anything that's sugary or artificially, Pop Tarts, whatever. I don't want to pick on anything, but you got to cook some breakfast, or what's better is leftovers from last night. So I try to leave something for the morning. Now I love like steak and asparagus, and I'll cook chicken. I do some ham. I like meat, and so meat and veggies, and I've learned to eat it cold. I can even eat cold fish. It's just something I've disciplined myself to do. Now most people go, ugh, I can eat that. You know what? When you eat to live, and not live to eat, the other way around, you understand you're just fueling your body. And lots of good clean fresh water and some supplements and some of last night's dinner, probably your, because if you cook lunch and dinner You can eat it for breakfast any day of the week and be doing super fine, super great. And if you want to eat your, therefore, if you want to eat your breakfast, if you would make eggs and some meat and some veggies for breakfast, um, and it's okay to do a little snacking, but I could talk about, how will you know if it's the right combination? But when you do that, you could also eat that for lunch or dinner. So you should be able to eat breakfast 24 hours a day.
Yep. No, I
That
love
makes
that.
that
Yeah.
makes that makes a lot of people happy
Yeah. No,
if they're eating a good breakfast.
yeah, exactly. I think we are really used to thinking about different foods for different meals. And what I hear you saying, and my mindset as well, is if it's good food, it's good food, and if it's not, it's not. So it doesn't really matter what meal you're eating it at. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, they're kind of all in the same category when you start eating whole foods. And then
Mhm.
there's a lot of
And it-
vegetables of each one. There's some healthy meat, some healthy fats.
and it's perfectly fine to warm it up. And depending on the person, you could get some. There are some healthy grains out there. I'm not a big grain person. I've run labs on myself for almost 20 years now, and so I've got a clean diet. Eat very little that's bad for me. I don't have a sweet tooth anymore. I used to as a kid. I was a sugar head.
Mhm.
And but when you start to realize that eating right gives you more energy, you actually have solid energy that will last you a while, at least until the next meal. Your energy should last you to the next meal. If you're craving something, you're probably not getting the right combination or ratios of protein, fat, and carbs. And you should also have uh, uh, a sense of well-being. You should actually
Mhm.
feel pretty happy. You really deserve to be happy. And I mean, I'm not saying something couldn't be bothering you that's going on in your life, but you should otherwise be pretty happy. And food creates the foundation for that. So energy and sense of well-being and satiation. You shouldn't be craving anything. Like the meal shouldn't feel like it was missing something. And a lot of people, there's an old joke about certain food. An hour later you feel hungry. It actually is true. Because you ate the wrong. It's not the right. It probably didn't have enough protein and fat in it for you.
Right.
That's the deal.
Yeah. So, when you talk about the FDN protocol, we cover everything from diet, rest, exercise, stress reduction, and supplementation. What part of the health puzzle do you think people struggle with the most?
Everyone has a weak area. It's kind of really interesting. I mean, obviously people are they put a lot of focus on their diet and maybe exercise. But there's the other parts. You mentioned getting a good night's sleep and the hidden stressors. People just don't really understand. They think I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine. If they don't have a symptom at that moment, they might even, if you ask how you doing, they stop. They go, yeah, no aches and pains, no headaches. I'm fine. Whereas underneath, all this stuff's going on, and you know, then they drop down into having symptoms. And if all they do is get back to those symptoms, they're not fixing anything. They're just palliating or doing relief care, and that's a sure way to end up breaking your body down. And we see that happening, right? So it's hard to say. I would just have to say everyone should have some sense of their weakest area, and start with that.
Yeah,
And let us professionals help you with the hidden
other stuff.
stressors.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I do love that aspect of the functional lab testing. I think it's so eye-opening when you get these tests back and they really explain so much about, there's so much correlation almost every single time, even if it's only one test. Even like if you, let's say they only choose like the food sensitivity test, but like 30 things come back, that's correlation, and it explains so much. And I think I know I had one client that was sensitive to coffee. as an example. And that's something that people have every single day. And so just
Yeah.
eliminating this thing that's causing pain and inflammation, is huge. So I think, just it's the little bits of knowledge that compound to creating this different world for you, this different life that without the testing, I think you don't really know about. Or at least, I didn't until I started down that road, and it's been fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah. Got it.
So I know you have a new program coming out. Can you talk a little bit about what that is? Can you give people a little bit of a preview of what's coming with
Yeah,
FDN?
sure. Well, FDN is a certification that I created myself for my tribe, if you will, my deputies, So it's a really bona fide system. We've been nurtured all along in conjunction with some physicians that I work with who are on my advisory board, so that it's a tremendous holistic program and of investigation into underlying causes and then natural protocols. And people who take it, they're like you and me. I mean, I have 15 different certificates of this, that, and the other thing, the courses I've been through, and I never paid much attention to who was accrediting those certifying bodies. Well, we've been around long enough now to mature to a level where there's a lot of professional FDN practitioners out there. They're out there earning a living and helping people, doing what I trained them to do. And so we got enough people now who want to some other agency. There's these credentialing and bodies that will recognize your course. Now, we've already got a few under our belt. We're recognized by the National Certification Commission for Acupuncture and Oriental Medicine for relicensing credits on a national level. We're recognized for continuing education credits for other organizations like us that they're kind of their own entities. And we kind of allow our tribes to take each other's programs for continuing education. Oh, that's good. But I decided last year to finally invest in having someone write, and I hired a PhD who's taken a year or maybe a little more to not only take my certification course, but because she's done this before, write another layer on top for the Holistic Nutrition and Certification Board. So you'll be able to take my course and sit for the exam to become this other certifying body. And so that's a pretty cool thing. It's just that's more on the business side of maturing your course, and your tribe wants. It's just kind of satisfying that demand, because otherwise, the truth is, I think the course is perfect the way it is, because it trains people to do what really counts.
Yeah.
So, but if they want that layer to be able to sit for the board, we had to add some stuff to it to satisfy the board. And but I've had, just backing up a tiny bit, I've had PhDs and a lot of master's programs people say that our course was the most practical thing they've ever done. In other words, they liked getting all the academia out of the way with their bachelor's and even their master. It's still very academic, meaning what? You may have never helped a single person. You could be a master's and a PhD in nutrition, and you've never had a customer.
Right.
So I'm the opposite. I'm like pure, you're going to start helping people. You're going to be working with them. You're going to be doing, this is all the practical things. And we have exercises in there to make you practice just how to communicate with your prospective clients and your clients to get them to make changes and have some success. Again, it's not all academics to me.
Yeah. So I wanted to throw this in there because you were kind enough to offer a discount for anyone that is interested in the program. So they can go to functionaldiagnosticnutrition.com/the-TINYFITDIVA and get $500 off if they're interested in becoming an FDN, which is really exciting. Everybody should go do that right now, because it's awesome. Even if, to be honest, even if you never want to work as a practitioner, just if you want to know more about your own body, and maybe if you want to work with your own family, or just to learn all about a healthy lifestyle and how to kind of help you and your family be healthier and live your optimally healthy life. So I would really say it's kind of for anybody, really.
Well, there's not a lot of official prerequisites, if that's what you're saying. I do have to sort of warn people. It's a very robust course. You know,
Yes.
it's not a weekend course. It's going to take 6 months, 8 months. Some people take a little longer. We have had people sort of rip through it too in 3, 4 months, but that they're like freaks. So anyway,
It is true. It did take me a long time. I think it took me about 8 months.
it's a robust course. There is some anatomy, there's some physiology, some now I teach it in my own plain spoken way, so you'll get it. But you aren't going to do this in a couple weekends, that's for
No,
sure.
no, no.
And the prerequisites are that you either have to want to really help people, because it's also a business model, it's a profession. I want to deputize out there to go out there and spread the love, but you also have to be willing to walk the talk, do it on yourself. And if that's all you want to do, that's what you were trying to say, is why would I stop that person from taking the course?
Right.
I want to do it on myself and my family. Why would I stop you?
Yeah.
Like, okay,
But I
do
mean,
that.
if you want to be awesome and have your own business too, that's the way to do it.
Yeah,
You can go help tons
yeah.
of people. Yeah. Yeah. That's perfect. Okay, I have one more question for you. I have a hashtag that is stop dieting and live your life. Because so many people are just obsessed with control and restriction and all these different things. And my goal is really to help people find a lifestyle that works for them, that makes them healthy. So if you had to choose one thing for people to know or to practice in order to stop dieting and live their life, what would you say is like your one piece of advice, the biggest thing for them to focus on?
Well, come up with the reason why. Like get dedicated to a purpose and
Mm,
be really clear about what that is. So in my career, I've had 3, 4 major changes, and this last one, which I think is the last one, I was in my 40s, and it became really, really clear to me that I did want to help other people. I wanted to stop the cycle of trial and error, so I got really focused on that. And what I've learned is that you have to walk the talk and all that sort of stuff. But I would just say get dedicated as to why, what's your purpose. And it wouldn't matter to me what it is. If you just want to look good in a bathing suit, that's good enough for me. Okay, well, let's get you looking really good. Now you also, in our way of doing that is to get you really, really healthy. So imagine all the other things that are going to be downstream of you also look good in a bathing suit, whatever it is.
right.
I'm not picking that out but people have, that's been their motivation, and then they find out that it actually goes a little deeper. So I think definiteness of purpose is the number one factor in success in anything, including what's going to hold your feet to the fire. When you're craving something and you need some self-discipline, you
Mm,
better have a big why. Big why.
yeah. Oh, I love that. I use that actually. That's what I tell my clients is you have to know your why because that's what whole time. So look at that. That's awesome.
Imagine,
I,
imagine,
I
imagine.
I couldn't have said it
I
better.
can't even believe it.
That's fantastic. So, two more things really quickly. You have a freebie that you're offering everybody that goes through the D.R.E.S.S program, the D.R.E.S.S diet, rest, exercise, stress reduction, and supplementation. That health guide is going to be available at functionaldiagnosticnutrition.com/TinyFitDiva. So you can go download that there and get lots of awesome information. And then where can people connect with you? Where can they find you? Is there a social media platform that you usually hang out on, or Twitter,
You
Instagram,
just,
Facebook?
yeah, yeah. People could Google me. They could Google functional diagnostic nutrition, and hopefully something good pops up. You never know these days.
Only the good stuff. So your website, functionaldiagnosticnutrition.com. That's awesome. Reed, thank you
Yeah,
so much for your time. Thank you for your heart to
yeah,
help people get
Kaylee. Yeah,
healthy. Thank you for being willing to create the program to come onto the podcast and talk and share about it to people. So I just really appreciate that, and really, it's just been great to talk to you today.
Thank you. I'll turn it right back on you and say thanks for the opportunity to share, and you keep up the amazing work that you're doing helping people.
Thank you.